They didn't fail. They didn't quit. They didn't even change their message, staying committed to
the gospel, louder than hell.
They did everything right and still disappeared. In the early 90s, while one word was quietly rewriting the rules of rock, grunge, a band called Crystavox was releasing music they never thought it was soon to be out of time. And here's the outrageous truth. Crystavox didn't disappear in just 4 years for having bad songs or making bad decisions. They went away forced by timing and trend. Stay with me, because this is a wound that even 20 years away from the stages couldn't heal. In the late 1980s, while the Christian hard rock scene was still searching for its identity, two bands were quietly going nowhere: Evidence and Private Echo. Out of those two projects came something sharper, more focused, more ambitious: Crystavox. By the time they found their sound, the decade that could have facilitated their crossover and shot them to stardom had ended. And still, they refused to play small. Also, the musicians have learned from the mistakes with their previous bands. They knew record companies were clogged with demo tapes. To stand out, something risky, borderline crazy had to be done. They paid out of their own pockets to produce a full MTV-quality music video for the song Power Games. And instead of mailing tapes, they mailed the video directly to record companies. It was a gamble, a calculated one, and it worked. Regency picked it up. MTV started showing it. Not during prime time, not on heavy rotation, but late at night and on Headbanger's Ball. Anyway, for a Christian metal band, that was enormous. It meant visibility, legitimacy. It meant they were real. But legitimacy didn't mean crossover. Because while Crystavox was breaking through the door, the room itself was disappearing. Their debut album arrived in 1990. At that moment, metal melody and the 80s aesthetic were still kicking. Stryper and Guardian were household names on the mainstream, although not as much as few years before. The scenario favored their highly melodic, yet heavy sound. Crystavox sold records strongly. Estimates placed their sales between 70,000 and 100,000 albums. Those weren't small numbers. The problem was where those numbers lived. Crystavox was selling inside Christian bookstores, not on Billboard, not tracked by the RIAA, invisible success. For comparison, Stryper's Against the Law, considered their weakest seller at the time, moved around 200,000 copies and still reached the Billboard charts. Death's Spiritual Healing, an extreme metal album in a just as narrow niche, also sold around 200,000. Crystavox sold less, not because of quality, but because of distribution and of what was to come. And then came 1991, and with it, the collapse. The music industry didn't slowly change. It pivoted violently. Flashy visuals were out. Virtuosity was mocked. Hope sounded outdated. Sadness and depression became cool. Grunge didn't ask permission. It took over. Dirty guitars, cynical lyrics, disillusion as identity. Crystavox released their second album right into that shift. And suddenly, they were speaking a language the market no longer wanted to hear. Too melodic, too polished, too hopeful, and openly Christian. The secular industry moved on. The Christian market, meanwhile, simply wasn't built to carry heavy bands without outside support. Bookstores stocked the albums, some churches hosted shows. But there was no ecosystem strong enough to keep momentum alive once the mainstream shut its doors. Crystavox wasn't banned. Grunge killed a whole scene and pushed metal to the underground in an apocalyptic prophecy of what was to become the music industry as a whole. Around this time, another part of the story mattered deeply. Tony Lopez. Long before Crystavox, long before stages and videos, Tony found Christ in prison. That experience reshaped everything. When he joined the band, his faith wasn't theoretical, it was lived. And wherever Crystavox played, Tony shared his testimony. In interviews, on stage, from felony to ministry. This wasn't image, it was identity. And identity in the early 90s came at a cost. The ministry was over. What followed wasn't dramatic. No scandals, no public implosion, just fewer shows, less visibility, and eventually, silence. The band dissolved quietly. Years passed. Then decades. Until something unexpected happened. The original master tapes, long forgotten, were discovered in a warehouse in Burbank. After nearly 20 years, the Crystavox guys found each other again. Still believers. They remastered the albums. Recovered never-before-seen live footage. Recorded a new interview. Rox Records released the material. And their former label, Ocean Records, did something rare. They handed the entire catalog back to the band. For free. The reunion didn't shake the industry. It didn't climb charts, not even a single concert. It was modest, but it was restoration. Christians understand this differently. There are no coincidences. Only timing we don't fully see. Maybe you heard Crystavox when those records were new. On cassette. On CD. Maybe you're hearing them now for the first time. But the conclusion is the same. This doesn't sound like failure. It sounds like a band that existed between eras. The band may be gone, but the message in their lyrics is immortal as our king. If you're still here, it's because stories like this matter to you. In the description, you'll find carefully curated products and resources selected by people who know this world. And please, consider buying our editor a cup of coffee. His computer is freezing more than a Starbucks mochaccino.